We've done that in the last class. Am I audible till the end? Yeah, you guys can hear me, great. We've done reactions in the last class. We'll be doing three important mechanical devices that we required for the entire mechanics section. We'll be using them throughout. The first one to start with today will be called springs. Okay. Please write down springs. I'll give you a basic introduction to this. Okay, write down this thing. We are sitting on top of this. First thing that you write down about springs is, these are mechanical devices. These are mechanical devices which generate a force called tension. These are mechanical devices which generate a force called tension. This tension force, by definition, is always away from the object. This tension force, by definition, is always away from the object the string is connected to. The second point you write down, ideally, the string is believed to be massless, frictionless, and inextensible. Ideally, the string is believed to be massless, frictionless, and inextensible. In the brackets you write down, along with that, for such a case, the tension throughout the string remains constant. For such a case, the tension throughout the string remains constant. Okay. Next point along with that you write down, the next line rather. Practically, the string has mass. The string has mass and also can be extended. For such cases, in the brackets, the tension varies throughout the string. The tension varies throughout the string. Okay, now just see this. We have a rigid support over here that can be the ceiling to which I have connected the string, and to the other end I'll hang you very desperately, like so, holding on to it. Okay. Clearly in this case you see that you're not moving in the y direction. You're fixed over there. The acceleration will be 0 in this case. You can see that. It's not moving, it's fixed, it's holding on to it desperately. Acceleration 0. Okay. Now if the acceleration is 0, first there is a force on this person that will be mg in the downward direction. That's the weight of the person. That will always be there. If there is a force of weight downwards, then there has to be a force in the upward direction so that he is not moving. In this case, that force is actually called as a tension. This string will ensure that you don't fall down. Okay, so string generates a force in the upward direction on you. They try to pull you upwards with this force that's called as the tension. Okay, now this string is actually connected between two objects. Object one is you, the second object is the ceiling. Okay, so it should also give a force on the ceiling. If you try to make the free body diagram for the ceiling, the force of tension on the ceiling is away from the objects. That's the definition. We've seen that, we've written that. The force of tension is always away from the object to which it is connected to. Over here also, the tension is away from the object. It's not towards the object. You can see that. Over here you can see that if this is not moving, then the value for t has to be equal to mg. Acceleration 0, t will be equal to the weight. So that's your tension. That's exactly the force with which the ceiling is being pulled down by the string. The string pulls down the ceiling with the exact same force. You can also think it of something like a transfer of force. You're pulling this end with mg. That's exactly what the ceiling experiences. The ceiling experiences a force of mg in the downward direction. Because the string will now pull it down with the force of mg. That's exactly what is happening over here. Is that fair? Okay, now what we'll do is we'll actually go a case ahead. We'll try to put this guy in an elevator, and the elevator goes upwards. This over here is the elevator, hanging onto it desperately, like so. The elevator starts going up with an acceleration a. You know now, again there are two forces. We're considering the person, we're not considering the rest. There has to be a force of tension away from the object. That over here is T. This over here is mg. Okay? Now, if you are going up, which force should be greater? The tension has to be greater in this case. If the tension is not greater in this case, then you cannot go upwards. This has to be greater than your weight so that you go up. What should be the equation? It's great. You write down T minus mg has to be equal to ma. This is Newton's second law of deduction, if you remember. If the mass is changing, you write down a different equation over here. This over here is T minus mg is the resultant force on this object. That's F equals ma. Rearranging this, you get the value for T is m times g plus a. We've seen a similar type in reaction also, if you remember. If you are standing on an object, that object starts going up with you of an acceleration a, the reaction goes m times g plus a. Okay, we'll go to another case wherein the elevator is going down. Let's go down in this case with an acceleration of v. Again, you have two forces. This over here is the tension. This over here is the mg. Which of these two forces should be bigger now? It has to be the weight. That's mg over here. The equation is mg minus d equals mass times acceleration, which is v over here. So the tension in this case will be m times g minus b on rearranging. Again, we've seen this equation before. Exactly similar. Okay. We realized that we learned reaction because of one of the most important ideas of measuring mass, that of the weighing balance. Do you remember doing that? We've seen that how a weighing balance actually measures mass. It is actually calculating the reaction that the weighing balance gives you. The reading that we wrote down in that case was, if you remember, the reading was the reaction over the g of the planet. Is that fair? Okay, now what we are doing is, this is also an idea that can be used to calculate the mass. That's exactly what even the vegetable vendors do. Okay, they have a spring balance that looks something like this. It has readings over here. You have a system that looks like this, that's a hook to which the load is connected. Something like this. So you keep an object over here that pulls the entire system down. It's going to pull this up. The ceiling is also pulled down with the same force as that of your load. So that's exactly what comes out over here. Exactly the same reading. But the reading has to be in units of mass, if you remember. It has to be kilograms, and not really newtons. Okay. So what we again do is we will talk about the reading. In this case, the reading will be the tension divided by the acceleration into gravity of the planet. That is what will happen over here. That is what will be shown over here. Now we'll talk about some cases. Let's take the mass of this person to be 50 kilograms. We'll take that to be 50 kilograms. If it is 50 kilograms, what is the value for tension over here? Will be 500 newtons. That's 500 newtons over here. And if that's 500, what should be the reading? It has to be 50 kilograms. Divide that by the g of the planet. Okay, so that gives you a reading of 50 kilograms on this weighing scale. Okay, let's go to the other case. Let's make the acceleration as 2 meters per second square. In and this is going up with an acceleration of 2 meters per second square. You can see the value for tension goes up to 600 Newton. 50 times 10 plus 2, will give you 600 Newton. So the reading in this case will be 60 kilograms. That will be the reading. Clearly not real value. The real value is 50 kilograms. There is definitely increase in the apparent weight. Over here, let's believe that you're going down with 4 meters per second square. What will be the value for tension? The tension will be 300 Newton. If the value for tension is 300 Newton, the reading should be 30 kilograms. Why are we really discussing this? In fact, it's so much prevalent in your day-to-day life. If you go to ever buy vegetables, you will see that this guy, he will actually put in the load over here. That's exactly what he does. He'll put the load over here. And the next thing that he does is, he will pick it up. Have you seen that? Have you ever seen that? He will just pick it up in front of you. The reason why he does that is because he's actually doing this case. He accelerates this upwards. He's fooling you. He does that every single day. The actual mass is 50 kilograms. The reading that it shows is 60 kilograms. You're being fooled. You're buying this. Okay, so that's the idea. Reading goes up. More importantly, coming back to the most important one, in which of these three conditions will the tension be zero? The last one again. Do you remember reaction becoming zero? Identical to that. This cannot go down to zero anyhow, because all are positive terms. This cannot be zero also, G cannot be zero, mass cannot be zero. In this case, it will be zero for a specific certain case, where B equal to G. When will that happen? When you cut the row of this elevator. Okay, yes. So what you do over here is you make sure that the acceleration due to gravity is what the elevator is going down. You make sure that you cut it. B equals G in this case. If B equals G, the tension in this case is zero. It's 0 Newton. If you remember, reaction equal to zero had a specific importance. It defined that the objects were no more in contact. Okay, what is T equal to 0? When T equal to 0 case arises, it tells you that the string is slack or no more taut. This is what you mean with tension equal to 0. No more taut. Taut actually refers to the idea that this string looks like something like this, and slack means it's something like this now. This does not have any tension inside it. This will have some tension inside it, even if it is a very small value. Even if T manages to get 0.0001 Newton, it will still be straight. It will be taut. The moment it goes down to 0, it slacks. It becomes something like this. So what happens over here is you can reduce T to 0. You can see that. At the same time, you can also increase the value of T. You can keep doing that. What we are doing is we can increase the acceleration. Increase the acceleration, tension goes up. Now this again is a mechanical device. At some point of time, it has to give away. It will break. It has to break because you cannot just keep increasing the acceleration. It's not a God event. So it has to break somewhere in between. Okay? So you increase the acceleration. Let's believe that you go down to 3. You go up to 3. Tension goes up to 650. You make it 4, goes to 700. You make it 5, 750. Like that. It keeps increasing there. Okay? So they will always define something that is called as a breaking tension. It's coming fast. Breaking tension refers to the idea that you cannot have a tension more than a specific limit. They will always define breaking tension for you. Okay? Something like the breaking tension for this string, let's believe, is 1000 newtons, which means that it cannot bear more than 1000 newton. If you try to apply more than 1000 newton to it, it will break. Okay, so they might even pose a question to you for such a case. What should be the maximum safe acceleration so that you can move on this? Okay, so what you really do is you put T over here as 1000 and you calculate the value for A. Okay, so you can see that this over here is 50, this has to be 20, then A ka value in this case will be 10 meter per second square. So if you're going up with an acceleration of 10 meter per second square, it will ensure that the string has now a tension of 1000 Newton. If you go slightly above that, it will just break. Okay. So why this is again really important, when you do questions in circular motion, there will be a question that is very often asked. What will be the maximum speed with which you can rotate an object so that it does not really break? So again you come back to tension breaking. Okay, so they will define this to you and you have to just equate using the equation, something like Newton's laws, and you will realize that there will be a point, a speed, which will ensure that it will break, something like that. So this again is pretty important. Yeah, that's for now. Please write this down quickly. Where are done with this? Yes? You see this question now? What you really have over here is you have two blocks. They connected using string. M1 and M2 are the two blocks. They have different masses. Let's believe that for now. They're connected with a string. And you pull block 1 with the force of F. You have to find out the acceleration and the tension of the string. Okay. So what we'll do is, again, we make the free body diagram. We know how to go about this. First is the reaction between the surfaces. Let's call this as R1. Let's call this over here as R2. Now let's make them separately. I'm making only for M1 first. So this over here is M1. That's mass 1. You see this, that the ground pushes us up with R1. The weight of the block is M1G downward direction. it has a force to the right, that is F. Okay, where should the tension be? It has to be back, away from the object, because it is connected over here. It has to go away, not into the surface. This over here is the tension. In which direction should we move?
Right.
We will move to the right. Let's believe that is going ahead with an acceleration of A. Okay, we've made that so far. Let me make for M2 now. This over here is the second object, that's mass 2. Now this has a reaction R2 over here. This over here has M2G. It's connected over here to the object. In which direction should we have the tension? You have it at the right. You cannot have it to this direction because that's into the surface, towards the object, not allowed, always away from the object. So the tension over here will be T. Again, remember that this tension is equal to this tension because this is a massless, inextensible, and frictionless string that we will need. Okay, so that's over here as T. Can I write down the acceleration over here as A? Why can I do that? There was a specific condition that I've told you. Only then you can write them down as A. When can you write them down as A? When? No. No. When can you say that the objects will move with the same acceleration? Not really when they are in contact. There was
When they are connected with the same, like a string or...
no, not even that. There was a specified. There was a specific. Yes, they cover same distances in same amount of time. If you remember the statement, please fix it up. Okay. If they cover same distances in same amount of time, they have to have same acceleration, because if this is going ahead by a distance of x in 10 minutes, this will also do the same. It has to do the same. It cannot do more than x, it cannot do less than x, because the string over here is inextensible. It will not allow it to do more than that and lesser than that. So over here, they have to move same distances in same amount of time. This equation helps you clear out that problem. S equals ut plus half at square. The initial speed of the 0 is for tau. S equals half at square. Distances and time are same. Acceleration has to be same. That's how it goes. That's why I've written A for both of them. Their accelerations are not different, they are same. Now you can see that it's not jumping in the y direction, it's fixed in the y direction. You can directly write down R1 equals to the weight, that's m1g. And R2 in this case will also be equal to the weight, that's m2g. Let's remove this because they are not really that important for this question. Okay, we're done with that. Now you can write down the equation for this. I'm going to the right, there are two forces in the x direction. Your equation should be F minus T equals m1a, mass times acceleration. Over here I got only one force. T equals m2a. Add them up together, you see that this will cancel out with this. You have F equals m1 plus m2 times a. So this gives you the acceleration, which is F by m1 plus m2. Well, this was not really a big surprise, you always knew this. You could have put that inside a box. If you put that inside a box, what is the mass of the box? I don't care what is happening inside the box, what the tension does inside the box, that's not my problem. The mass of the box is m1 plus m2. I am pulling that with the force of F. Acceleration has to be this, it cannot be anything else. Okay? That's your acceleration. Put that over here, you get the value for T. So the value for T that you get will be m2F over m1 plus m2. This over here is the value for tension. You can clearly see also from here, if the force is made higher, the tension will go higher. So if I pull this with a larger force, the tension that is generated between the strings will increase, and will pull that m2 with also a larger force, because the only force that's on 2 is tension. So it also starts going away ahead with a larger force. So these are two equations, these are two values that are important. You've done that. I want you to write them down. I'm giving you a problem. Please write that down also. Can I erase this at least? Yeah. Sorry. No, it cannot be. The moment it becomes, let's believe that the tension over here and over here is same, this won't move. I'm talking about that specific string. This is different. There are three different strings. Okay, so this will be T2, this is T3, and this minus T1. They have to be different. Towards that string it will be same. The other string will have a different tension. The acceleration, I think most of you have gotten this, is F by 4m. The tension in case 1, that's over here, is 3F by 4. Then for 2 is 2F by 4. I'll prefer to write it as 2F by 4. And T1 is F by 4. You should have gotten this. Oh, sorry, it's the other way around. Sorry, it is T3. ठीक है, ये मिला हुआ है। अगर नहीं मिला तो मैं इक्वेशन दे रहा हूँ। Just try to see. I'm not making the reaction weight. I'm not really making that because that's understood now. This over here, this is tension 1. It will try to pull it back. This one is T1. Over here, the tension will try to take you ahead. That is T1. Over here, this will be pulling it back. That's T2. This over here will try to take it ahead. T2. This over here is T3 backwards. This over here is T3 ahead. So when you write down the equations for the first block, F minus T1 equals ma, the mass times acceleration. T1 minus T2 will be equal to ma, because this force has to be bigger than this force so that this block moves. Likewise, T2 minus T1 will also be equal to ma. Sorry, T1 minus T2 minus T3 should also be equal to ma. That's for this block. And for this block, I don't have an opposition. T3 will be equal to ma. So if you directly now solve it, when you add them up together, you get F equals 4m times a. So directly you can write down acceleration will be F by 4m. That's your acceleration in this case. That was again obvious because if you put that inside the box, the mass in the box is 4m. Acceleration should have been F by 4m. Okay. Now you can put that in any of the equations and directly get the answer. There was slightly different way which you could have done this. If you can do this directly, most of you I think have done this. You can directly jump onto this equation without really writing that. Okay. Now you see that this is the only force that's taking it ahead. So T3 का value होगा definitely ma. ठीक है. T2 का value देखो. T2 is actually pulling the system over here. तो उसका value 2ma होना चाहिए क्योंकि वो 2m blocks को खींच रहा है. जैसे F 4 ब्लॉक को खींच रहा है, वैसे T2 2 ब्लॉक को खींच रहा है. तो 2ma होगा. So T2 you will see that it will come down to as 2ma. If you cannot, you can actually put it over here. You get the value of T2 as 2m. If you talk about T1, it's pulling 3 blocks. So T3 has to be equal to 3m. You see that? So you can just, that's T1. Sorry. So that's exactly how it goes. You can directly put in, you get the answers. Okay? A very simple question now. Very simple rather. You have an object that's mass 1. This over here is m2. Let's believe that you're pulling this with the force of P. This over here is going with the force of Q. Believing that P is greater than Q. What will be the acceleration in this case? Can I write it as P minus Q? Can I do it this way? Yes, because when you stand outside the box, that's the mass in the box. The total force on the box is P minus Q. So it starts moving in this direction with this acceleration. Is it fair? Please write this down also. say that you write down. It's called as a pulley. Write down few words for it. This mechanical device is used to reduce human effort. This mechanical device is used to reduce human effort. Ideally, it is believed to be massless and frictionless. Ideally, it is believed to be massless and frictionless. Okay. Pulley actually looks like this. Such a pulley. You connect that to the ceiling. You have a string that goes over this, like so. Okay. We're just trying to see the pulley for now. Okay. Let's say that the tension over here is T1. Let's say the tension in this string is T2. Because they are different strings. Okay. You can clearly see that this string is 1 and this is a different string altogether. There are two different strings. One has a tension T1, the other might have T2. The tension T for this pulley will be in the upward direction. This is T1 over here. Because it is always away from the object. So it has to go away from the object. The tension T2 on this pulley will be in the downward direction over here and in the downward direction over here because it has to be away from the object. It cannot be towards the object. So it goes like this. Okay. Let's believe that this has a mass for now. Let's call it the mass of the pulley is MP. Okay. If it starts going up, my acceleration, my formula will be T1 minus 2T2 equals mass times acceleration. If this is going up, this has to be bigger than these two forces so that you go up. That's your equation. If you're going in the downward direction, 2T2 minus T1 is equal to mass times acceleration. If you're going up in this case, and if you're going down in this case. But for simplicity's sake, what we really do is we believe that it is massless. The moment I say it is massless, MP is 0. If that is 0, we come down to a very important condition. We can write down T1 will be equal to 2T2. This is something that we are interested in. Okay. At the same time, remember that it is frictionless, so this disc will actually not rotate. It's not rotating. What is happening is this string over here will just move on it smoothly. It will not rotate that pulley. Okay, so it will just move on it smooth. Okay, you just want to go like this. You just slip on it. Okay, so it's not, the friction does not exist. That's the idea. So that's how it is moving. So this condition is important. Now we'll actually understand why and how it actually reduces the human effort. So first, to understand this, let's try to draw water from a deep, something like this. We're drawing water, okay? We're going to pull that up. There's a string over here, okay, that's connecting two objects. One is you, the second one is the bucket over here that's filled with water. You can see over here that there will be weight in the downward direction. That's the weight of the bucket filled with water, that's mg. There will be a tension in the upward direction for this bucket away from the object. Over here, there will be a reaction force due to the ground. There will be a force that you generate, that is your weight, that's mg. At the same time, you are holding onto this string. Where should the direction of the tension be? It will be in the downward direction. You see that properly. It cannot be upwards towards you. So it has to be in the downward direction. That's the value for tension. Okay. You ensure in this case that you are actually pulling this up with a constant speed. Okay. You will make sure that you are pulling this up with a constant speed. If that is happening, acceleration is 0. If the acceleration is 0, then you can say that the tension will be equal to the weight of the bucket in this case, filled with water. This will happen for acceleration equal to 0, or you're moving this with a constant speed. Okay? Great. Now try to see the forces on this person. There are three forces: tension downwards, weight downwards, R upwards. Is this jumping in the y direction? Absolutely not. Acceleration in the y direction is 0. So you can equate the forces in the y direction. You can write down R will be equal to T plus mg. So if R equals T plus mg, the value of T here is small mg plus capital Mg. This over here is the reaction that the ground gives you. That's exactly what you give back to the ground. Action equals reaction, Newton's third law. So this is exactly the force that you are giving the ground at this very moment. But if you're just standing still without anything in your hand, the reaction that you give is mg, that's your weight. Clearly in this case there is a larger force that is applied by you on the surface, so that you pull that up. You can clearly see that there is an extra effort that's happening over here. So R goes up, extra effort, because you're pushing it down as hard as possible. You're generating this an extra force. Okay? That's exactly the effort that we're talking about. How does the pulley reduce that effort? Let's introduce a pulley over here. Now we are smart. We have a pulley that's pulling your water in a bucket. You're standing somewhere over here, reaching for that rope on the ground that looks like this. Again, this over here is the tension, this over here is the weight. You make sure the conditions are met. T equals mg. Over here, the reaction due to the ground, that's R. This over here is your weight. You're holding onto the string. Where is the tension in this case? You can see that it has to be in the upward direction, away from you. It cannot be into you, it has to be away from you. The tension goes in the opposite direction. So if it is going to the opposite direction, the equation will be R plus T equals to the weight. Therefore R equals mg minus T, which is R equals mg minus the small mg. You can clearly see that the reaction decreases. You're not really pressing the ground as hard as your weight is also. If your weight is, you're just standing around, say, the reaction that the ground gives you is mg, you are pressing the ground with mg also. But in this case, the reaction is lesser, you're pressing the ground with a lesser force. Is there a possibility that this can become 0? Definitely yes. When this has the same mass as that of you. If small m goes to capital M, reaction goes to 0. If the reaction is 0, you go up. In fact, if the mass of this is bigger than you, instead of you pulling this up, you're going through that. Okay. So now one more question that arises: will we ever be able to pull a system that has a larger mass? Yes, there is a way. Yeah, what we are really doing is we'll actually talk about pulleys. Before that, the person who's invented pulley is also the father of mechanics, and his name is Archimedes. Okay, this actually comes from a desperate requirement at that time. He belongs to Greece. He is a Greek. Greece, if you remember, is 3 sides surrounded by water. I'm not really sure whether this story is a myth or reality, but that's exactly how it has been introduced. It is 3 sides surrounded by water. One side is landlocked. They have some excellent naval forces, best in fact in the world after UK. Britain has the great naval force, the best ones. Okay, so this over here, Greece, it is very easy to actually push in ships into the water, but it is very difficult to remove ships back to the land. It's very difficult. Just think over it. You cannot just go into the sea and start pushing. That's something that's very difficult. So what they really do is they go inside the sea. They have ropes along with them, connected to the hook that the ships have, come back, pull it, and do that. So what he decided was to actually reduce that thing, and he made use of pulleys over here. He actually pulled a ship that was generally pulled by 300 people. That's exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to pull that all by himself by using these ideas. So he comes up not really with the exact thing, but I'm giving you a prototype for that, something that will be almost similar to that. What we'll do is we'll believe that this over here is a massless rod, which is only used for support. Okay? It's only used for support. There is no other requirement. This over here is the big massive load that we got. Let's believe that to be M. Okay? To make it look massive, let's believe that this over here is one pulley. We'll make it this small. That's you. Let's try to pull this load. Clearly very big. Okay? So what we're doing over here is, let's believe somehow you generate this much amount of force that you are managing to pull this, keep this up rather. Not really pull this, but just keep it there at least. Let's believe that we are pulling this down with the force of P. I pull this down with the force of P. The moment I do that, I'm actually pulling the rod with the force of P. That's exactly what we're doing. Transfer of forces, we've seen that. Okay? If I pull this down with P, this rod is pulled up with P. This rod right now is pulled down with mg. Okay, if my force is equal, it won't move. I am balancing that right now. So if I have one pulley over here, P should be equal to mg. That's the amount of force that I should generate. Now what we do is, we bring in another pulley over here. Let's bring in another pulley over here. That looks like so. Remember, if this over here is T2, this has to be 2 times T2. Be careful. If this is T2, that has to be 2 times T2. So if this over here has a tension of T, this will have, it will have 2P. This is being pulled with 2P. So it will also pull you up with 2P. There is a magnification of force over here. What is the rod being pulled up with now? It is pulled up with 3P. That's P and this over here P and this over here is P. Let me just make this slightly away. This P over here is the force that we're giving over here. So the total force that we got is 3P. So for 2 objects, 2 pulleys, 3P equals the weight. Let's take in one more. This will go up with 4P now. Can you see that by? So, the 7P equals weight. And if you have 4, they'll give you 15P equals your weight. See what we've done? Using just 4 pulleys over here, we have reduced the effort by 15 times. Now I have to pull this thing by 15 times lesser than the actual weight. I've clearly reduced that. My question over here is to make it more. If I have n pulleys, what will be this equation? If I have n pulleys, what will be this equation? Sorry? 2n plus 1. If I had n equal to 1, this should have been 3. It's not working. Do you understand my question? If I have n pulleys, what will be the equation now? 2n minus 1? If you have n equal to 3, this should have been a 5. You can try. N square minus 1, if n equal to 1, this should have been 0. Sorry? 3.
So everything like the first
3 अगर तू लेगा तो ये 8 होना चाहिए. हाँ? Sorry?
everything like the first three that will always be P. That's why you should just go with the
The answer to this one is it is 2 raised to n minus 1 times P. Just check for any value of n that you have. You directly get the answer. Just check for it. Yeah? N equal to 1, n equal to 2, n equal to 3, anything. Okay? So now listen to me. If you have 10 pulleys over here, 10 pulleys over here, 2 raised to 10 is 1024. Again, of an important number because 1024 actually refers to 10 to the power 3 in computer language. It raises the storage by 10 to the power 3. Kilo, meg, gig, that's 10 to 2 raised to 10. This will reduce your effort by 1023 times. Okay? The number of pulleys that he used was 92. Okay? That's 2 raised to 92 minus 1. That's a huge number. You might have a feeling that's not really a very big number. To make it look big, I'm just talking about 2 raised to 42. How big this number is. If you have a page, okay, you can just imagine a page that is 1 millimeter thick. Okay, if you fold it once, what will be the thickness? 2 millimeter. Let's fold it again. It's going to become 4. If you fold it again, it's going to become 8. You see that the thickness will be 2 raised to n. Okay, n is a number of folds. There is also this theory that tells you that you cannot fold it more than 7 times. I know that. No matter how big the paper is, okay, you cannot fold it more than 7 times. But let's believe that you fold it to 42 times. The thickness is going to be 2 raised to 42 millimeters. Okay, and how big is this? This is sufficient enough for you to reach from the surface of the earth to the moon. It's that big. 2 raised to 93, it's humongously big. Okay, so he must have been like, okay, we talk. That thing is so big. 2 raised to 92, multiplication of so much forces. Clearly, there is a small amount of error that will be induced. We don't really consider the mass. That's okay. That's completely okay. We're not really changing it by a lot factor. 2 raised to 92, come on. What you do is, please write this down quickly. Again, we erase this, right? This is one of the most famous statements that's in physics also. That's actually come from Archimedes. You give me a place to stand and I will move the world for you. Have you seen that? That's Archimedes. He was of the idea that if he ever had a very big plank, and if he had a chance to go outside the earth, he would just place that plank below the earth and he would just move it for us. Brilliant mind. His love for circles was also.
But in space there's no G, so even if we stand on it, Mars and G.
नहीं, मैंने बताया था last class में. There is no point in the universe where there is no G. Do you remember that? I think I've convinced the others at least. There is no point in the universe where the acceleration due to gravity is zero. You're always under the effect of somebody or the other. There is no point in the space where G is zero. Please go through my AB again. That's being recorded also. I would like it. It's okay. Are we done with this? Can we erase this? What can I erase this? We just see this thing now. This over here is a very basic system that you have of a pulley and two blocks connected by the help of a string. This over here is actually more famously known as an Atwood machine. It's called an Atwood machine. They're giving you some condition over here that M1 is greater than M2, so that you have an idea how this system will move. It will move in this direction like so. You will see that. Okay. If this is going down with an acceleration of a, this should also go up by an acceleration of a because the string is inextensible. Same distances traveled in same amount of time. Only the directions are different, but the acceleration will be something like this. The tension over here will be T. This one over here is M1G. The tension over here will be also T. This will be M2G. These are the tensions that we made for these two objects away from the object. Be careful with that. You can clearly see and write down the equation now. This is clearly going down, so M1G has to be bigger than T. So your equation is M1G minus T equals M1A. For this case, you are going up. T has to be bigger than M2G. That will be M2 times A. When you add them up, you get M1G minus M2G equals M1 plus M2 times A. So the acceleration that you get in this case is G times M1 minus M2 over M1 plus M2. That's your acceleration in this case. Okay? You can put that over here in any of the equation that you like and get the value for T. I'm giving you this also directly. It will give you G times M1 M2 over M1 plus M2. You can actually check this later. Okay? I'll give you time to write down. Please don't write down anything for now. I want to explain you a lot on this. It's an important concept and you understand this well. What we'll do is, in case 2, we'll put this entire system into an elevator and let's go up. In this case, that system now is in an elevator. This looks something like this now. Again, the conditions are same. This one is M1, this over here is M2. M1 is still bigger than M2. In this case, let's go up with an acceleration of B. Okay. Now, if you see M2 was already going up with an acceleration of A. This over here is going down with an acceleration of A. Equation for M2 can be easily written because you can understand the direction for acceleration in this case. What will be the acceleration of the second block? It will be A plus B in this case. It's going up, so the tension has to be bigger than the weight. So you can directly write down the tension minus M2G is equal to M2 times A plus B. That's in the upward direction. I have to go upwards. Okay, this is slightly confusing. A is in the downward direction, B is in the upward direction. You can choose, okay? Let's choose that A is bigger than B. What will be the acceleration? In which direction? Downward direction. Which should be the larger force? M1G has to be the larger force than T. So if you choose this equation, M1G minus T, then you have to write down M1 times A minus B. If you want to choose the other one, I'm writing down the alternate one over here. T minus M1G will be equal to M1 times B minus A. Convince yourself that these two are equal and same. If you multiply this with minus 1, it will give you this. Just check. That's exactly the same equation, nothing different about that. When you solve these two equations, you get the value for acceleration. You get almost identical results with a slight change. You get this, and along with that you get G plus B. Okay? This was G. You never had an elevator that was going up. They'll give you G plus B. The tension over here will be 2m1 m2 over m1 plus m2 along with G plus B. This will also happen. Now you might ask me, why is this really happening? Let's go back to class 1 again. In fact, even today we've seen this. If you're just standing, what is the reaction in this case? It is equal to mg. Okay, if you're standing and the floor is going up with an acceleration of b, you write down the reaction is equal to m times g plus b. Just check. If you're going down with an acceleration of c, let's believe in this case, this is c, the reaction will be m times g minus c. This is your reaction of it. Okay. So what is really happening is, this term over here is actually written as g effective from now onwards, where g effective will be the total effect of the acceleration. Okay. So the shortest possible way to understand this is, every other acceleration that you have except for g, okay, you have to flip it over by 180. Okay. Over here I don't have any other acceleration except for g, so nothing over here. Over here I got a b. Let's flip this over by 180. It goes like this. It is in the direction of g, so you have a g plus b. In this case it's in the downward direction. If you flip it over by 180, it goes up. It's g minus c. Okay. Why and where should you use this? You will use this in all equations which involve g. Okay. For example, what is the pressure inside a liquid column at a depth h? You know that it's h rho g. Over there also, if you are believing that that liquid column is going up in an elevator, you are in an elevator that's filled with water, you're going up, the pressure that you will experience will now be h times rho times g plus b. That's exactly what will happen to you. If you are going down, it will be h times rho times g minus c. Also, if there is a free fall, there is a free fall condition. Also, if you cut the rho of the elevator, c becomes g. Effective g is 0. So if the effective g is 0, the pressure is 0. You know what will happen in that condition if you're inside the water? Everything is going down. The water will be very close to you, will not even touch you. R is 0. It will be very close to you, but it's not pressing onto you. So if it's not pressing onto you, it cannot generate a force. So no pressure. Pressure is impossible. Pressure is 0 in that case. Clearly from those equations. So it will be applicable everywhere. Now let me make it more complicated. That's still again intuitive, you can understand that again. Let's put you in a car. That elevator is in a car. And the car is going to the right. You go to the right with an acceleration d. What is going to happen over here? You know what will happen over here? This will move like this. These two things. Now they will start actually moving like so. Okay, but they will still do this. They have to do that. They have to do that. So what will you actually do in this case? What will be the effective g? Let's flip this over by 180. So this now looks like so. This is d over here. This over here is g. What is the resultant? It's under root of g square plus d square. You've seen this. This is parallelogram law. This is the effect. This is the g effect. Okay, so that's the idea over here. So wherever you have g, you can always replace that with g effective. Goes for all the cases. Okay? Some very good cases. Please write this down quickly. for this equation, okay? Rearrange it. Try to solve that and get this. So you're comfortable knowing that it's correct. I'm not bluffing you. Can I erase this now entirely? Yeah? Can I erase it now? Which are there the topic that we'll be doing next? Okay, data, springs. Don't draw that yet. I will give you time to do all that. Let me explain you first. These are mechanical devices. These are mechanical devices which generate a force. These are mechanical devices which generate a force which is directly proportional to the displacement, and always opposing this displacement. First, we'll just understand the equation for that according to the definition. The equation is fairly simple. They tell you about a force that the spring generates. We write this as Fs, that's the spring force. That force will be directly proportional to the displacement. A certain displacement gets called as x. Okay, if you have a proportion relation, direct inverse, you have to bring in a constant like always. That over here will be written as k times x. K over here is called as the spring constant, which is also called as stiffness constant. What should be the units for K? It should be Newton over meter. Kg meter per second square divided by meters will give you kg per second square also. Okay. More preferable will be Newton over meter in this case. That's the unit for this. Okay. They will give you values like K equal to 100 Newton per meter. Let's call this K1, and K2 equals 1000 Newton per meter. Something like this. Okay. This is for one spring. This is for the other spring. Something like that. K actually refers to the stiffness constant. This will try to tell you the spring is how stiff. When you compare these two springs, this one will be a lot stiffer when compared to this. It will resist compression and extension more than this one. We'll see that also, but before that, we'll see how the spring is. We've seen that before. That's the natural length of the spring. We've not bothered that. It's not been touched, it's not extended, it's not compressed. So if you just hold on over here, the free end of the spring, it's not going to pull you inside, not even push you outside. That will remain as it is, because over here, to the natural length, the extension of the compression is 0. If that is 0, the spring force should be 0 also, because F equals Kx. Okay? So if x is 0, the force has to be 0. What we've done over here is, we've pulled this outside by a distance x1. We pulled this outside by a distance x1. Now the spring does not really like that fact that it has been extended. It wants to come back to its natural length. If it wants to come back, it will now start pulling you back to the spring force, which will be equal to K times x1. That's exactly how it's going to pull you back. Clearly, because it wants to come back to its natural length. Over here, what we've done is, we've taken this out, we've taken this in this direction, with x2, that's the compression in this case. Again, it does not really like that fact, it wants to come back to its natural length, it will now push you out. That over here will be Fs equals K times x2. So it's going to push you out over here like so. Again, try to see the x over here stands for compression or extension both. If the value of x is higher, higher is the force. You can clearly see that. If you're considering this, if you pull that out by a large distance, they're going to pull you back to the larger force. If you just pull that by a small distance, it will pull you with a lesser force, because it's going to be dependent on x. Okay, that's intuitive. Now something that is more difficult to understand is the idea that the spring does not really give a force only on one end. Okay, this thing that it is doing, it does to both its sides. It is slightly dumb. It does not understand where exactly it has been pulled from or compressed. Okay, उसको ये नहीं समझ में आता कि तुमने उसको x distance यहाँ से खींचा है या वहाँ से खींचा हुआ है. All that it records will be this x. X has to be compression or extension, I don't care. But that x will now generate a force that is equal to this much, and depending if it is extension or compression, it will generate a force on both the ends. Read me well. So over here there is an extension. Okay, so it wants to regain its length back. It will start pulling. It does not pull from one end. It will also pull from the other end. That's over here. It will pull exactly by the same amount with kx1. Exactly that's what it's going to do. Pull from both the sides. Okay, it does not realize that the pull was always from here, but it will not be biased. It has to pull from here. That is how it always works. Okay? Now if you see in this case what it is doing, it is pushing it out. So it also has to push out this side also. That is non-negotiable. That has to happen. This over here is Fs will be kx2. It is now pressing it out on both the sides. That is the nature of the spring. To understand it more well, what we will do is we will consider two objects. Let's call this M1. Let's call this M2. What we are doing is, we will pull both of them outside first. Let's say by a distance x1. Let's say by a distance x2. You've taken them away. What is the total extension? x1 plus x2. X equals x1 plus x2. In this case, it's an extension. What it should do? It will try to pull you inside. It will try to pull you inside because it wants to regain its length. So if it's going to pull you inside, now there is an extension of x2 over here. There is an extension of x1 over here. The spring does not understand that. Spring understands one fact: I have been extended by x1 plus x2. I am going to pull you back from both the sides with k times x with k times x. X over here is x1 plus x2. You can clearly see what is happening. It's not being biased. If you pull me out with x1, I will not do kx1. I will do k times x1 plus x2. Exactly what it does over here also. To make it more understandable, we'll talk about one more case. It's over here M1 again. It's connected to M2. In this case, let's give them a force both in the same direction. So it goes out like so. So that it goes out like this. Let's call this x2. Let's call this x1. Okay. What will happen if x1 is greater than x2? There is compression. You see that? If x1 is greater than x2, there is compression. So what is the value of x? X will be x1 minus x2, and in this case it's a compression. If it's a compression, what it should do? It should push it outside. I want to regain my original length back, so it's going to push you outside. For case 1, it's going to push out both the blocks. No matter even if this was already going out, I will still push it out with kx, and will still push it out with kx. X is x1 minus x2. For case 2, if x1 is smaller than x2, the extension in this case will be x2 minus x2. This over here clearly will be an extension. This is bigger than this. There's an extension, spring understands the extension. I have to pull you back. We're going to pull you back with kx. This over here is kx also. This over here is second. Third one is pretty okay. x1 equals x2. Total x equals 0. Spring force equals 0. No force generated whatsoever. Okay? That's exactly how it works. More importantly, you might directly give me this one, but I want you to understand the process. Please keep that. Let's call the value for k as 100 Newton over meter. What we are doing over here is we are pulling this out with a force of 100 Newton. Okay, you see this? I'm pulling that out with 100 Newton. What will be the extension in that case? What will be the extension in that case? It will be 1 meter, F equals kx. Yeah, that's exactly how you do it. But there is slight change to that. Okay? This F and this F are different. This is the force that I have given. It's not the spring force. How can you even equate that to a
It's a self-adjusting force, so you can equate it.
It's a self-adjusting force? No, that's friction. Listen to me now. See what we are doing over here? That's actually the problem, because you don't really understand the basics. You directly jump in for the solution. There is a problem. Okay. I wanted to see this properly from t equals 0. What is happening initially? What is the extension initially? It is 0. If I'm trying to pull this, initially there is no extension. The spring x is 0. The spring force over here will be 0. Okay? If the spring force is 0, my force is bigger than the spring force, I will definitely pull it out. So let's believe that I pull it out by a small amount, x equal to 1 centimeter, which over here will be over 100 meters. Now my spring force will go up to 1 Newton. There is a fight that the spring generates. Definitely it is doing that. You can see that. I pull it out, 1 centimeter out, 1 Newton the force in this direction. I'm going with 100 Newton. My force is bigger. I will definitely be able to pull it out. So if I pull it out further, it goes out to 2 centimeter. The force the spring generates is 2 Newton. My force is still bigger. I can keep pulling that. You can keep pulling that. You pull it till 90. This is 90 Newtons. Mine is 100 Newton. I'm still bigger. I can keep doing that till the moment I reach x equals 100 centimeters. The moment I do this, the spring force is 100 Newton. That's exactly what you're applying. I'm applying 100. It has now generated 100 after a long time. After a long fight, it generates 100. The moment it generates 100, I cannot go further again. I stop. That's exactly the point where you get x equal to 100 centimeters. That's fine. Why do I call that to be a stiffness constant? If I have K2 equals 1000, if I put it over here, the extension that I would have gotten in this case would have been 0.1 meter. You can check that from the answer now. You can clearly see, if I apply F equal to 100 Newton, for this spring, 1 meter extension. If I put that for this spring, 0.1 meter extension. That's exactly the case. That is why this is less stiffer than that. Okay? One more thing that comes to my mind when I'm talking about something like this is the viscous force, which is also something similar to what I've just spoken. You've seen viscous forces before. It is written as 6 pi eta RV. That will be the viscous force. Okay, do you remember this? That's the friction that is generated by fluids. Okay, liquids and gases together are called fluids. That is the force that it generates. Friction over here is directly proportional to the velocity of the object. Larger the speed, larger is the viscous force. So what is happening over here? You can imagine about the raindrops right now outside. The question is, Are the raindrops hitting you with a constant speed or a constant acceleration? Constant speed. Constant acceleration refers to this. When I throw this, it's going to increase its velocity every single second. Is it hitting with a constant speed or acceleration? Constant speed or constant acceleration? Some of you say constant speed, some of you are still with constant acceleration. The answer is constant speed. Okay, it does not accelerate. The effect of G actually dies down in between. The reason is the viscous forces. What is happening over here is you don't understand this idea. The raindrop which is generated by the cloud does not really throw it. It releases it like a tap. The water is just dripping from that. It's not thrown. When you start from here, the velocity that you have is 0. If the velocity is 0, what should be the viscous force? It will be 0. So the only force that you have is the weight. It's mg. That's the only force. The acceleration that you should have over here is g. That's the only acceleration. If you remember, acceleration over here will be mg minus fv over m. But fv is 0, you can directly divide this by m, you get this. Acceleration is defined as the rate of change of velocity. If I say acceleration is 10 meters per second square, v equals u plus at. If I say u is 0, v equals at, which is gt now. It tells you that by how much will the speed change every single second. If I'm saying that the acceleration is 10 meters per second square, it will change by the factor of 10 every single second. You can put in the numbers, t equal to 1, it's 10, t equal to 2, it's 20, t equal to 3, it's 30. You can see that. It goes up, increasing by every single second by 10. Over here, it also does the very same thing usually. It's going up by an acceleration that is g. So your speed increases. Let's believe that you reach here. But by the moment you reach here, there is a good amount of speed. If there is a good amount of speed, there has to be a viscous force now. This over here is mg. If you see your acceleration over here, it's g minus fv over m. You can just do that. mg minus fv divided by m, you get this. Now my acceleration is lesser than g. But it is still negative, it's not negative, it's not even 0. It is lesser than g, imagine that to be 6. Okay, so my speed from here will increase by a factor of 6. But it is still increasing. Okay, the rate decreases, but the speed is still increasing. The rate decreases. पहले 10 से बढ़ रहा था, फिर 9 से बढ़ना शुरू किया, फिर 8 से बढ़ रहा है, फिर 7 से, फिर 6 से, बढ़ते तो रहेगा वो, क्योंकि acceleration direction same है, downwards. So the velocity is increasing. If the velocity is increasing, the viscous force increases. If the viscous force increases, there will be a point wherein Fv will be equal to mg. What will happen at this point? Fv will be equal to mg. At this point, acceleration will be 0. Upward forces and the downward forces are equal. Acceleration is 0. If the acceleration is 0, the rate of change of speed is 0. V cannot go up higher. V is fixed. If V is fixed, Fv is fixed. Fv cannot go higher also. So in this case, you come to a lock. Now you're going to fall from here with a constant speed. You never travel down from a constant acceleration anymore. So after this height, you reach the surface of the earth with constant speed. Sear star that made in America, 1920, that was way long back, has a fantastic construction that they've done. They've calculated properly. If you jump from the top of the tower, you will reach 1 meter before, and then you will actually move down with a constant speed. That's exactly how they've done it. If you remember this very famous jump, it was recently done by Felix Baumgartner. He's actually jumped from 32 kilometers above the surface of the earth. Okay? That might seem very small to you, I think, from here to Malad. But to have more feelings for that number, 32 kilometers, the height of Mount Everest is 8.5 kilometers. It's 8848. It's close to 9 kilometers. You can take it as 8.5, 9, whatever you like. That's 32 kilometers. That's 3 times all of that. So this guy is, and he makes a jump. He reaches the surface of the earth. in 22 minutes something seconds. I don't know, 22 minutes plus some seconds. In 3 minutes itself, he reached the terminal speed, and he has been traveling the rest 90 minutes with a constant terminal speed. He never even accelerated for the rest 90 minutes. That's exactly how it is. By the way, it was actually shown on YouTube, and in the entire world was actually watching it. It was live on YouTube. Anyways.
22 minutes of a guy just
Sorry? Sorry? Okay. Just write this down. जल्दी लिखो यार, जल्दी लिखो ये. एक छोटा सा क्वेश्चन करेंगे, then we'll go. जल्दी लिखो ये. Anyways, this is now at least still talk. See about it? Anyways, this now. Okay, let's see this. You got a question over here. You have two blocks. In this case, they're connected by springs. M1 and M2 again not identical. The spring constant is given to you as K. You pull this with the force of F. You have to find out the acceleration and the extension or the compression of the spring. First question over here is, will there be an extension or compression, or the spring will remain the same length? Extension. Okay, for people who have a feeling, we'll start with this. It cannot be the same length, because if it is at the same length, x is 0. If x is 0, then it cannot generate a spring force over here. Why is this object going to move forwards? इसको कौन खींचने वाला है आगे? It's going to be the spring. That's obvious. It's not connected to this block. It's not even having a force F on it. So it's going to be moving ahead. इसको खींचने वाला सिर्फ spring है. The spring has to generate a force in that direction on this object, which will make sure that it's moving. So x cannot be 0. X cannot also be compression, because if it were compression, and it's going to push you out. It's going to push this out in this direction. So clearly x has to be extension in this case, so that it is moving over here. So if this is a case of extension, you have kx in this direction on this block, you have kx in this direction on this block. You have f over here, you can write on r1, you can write on m1g, you can write on r2, and you can write on m2g. If this is going ahead with an acceleration a, this will also go ahead with an acceleration a, we've seen that before. r1 is equal to m1g, no problem for that. R2 will be also equal to m2g. We know this in the y direction, they are not jumping. This over here is going ahead. There are two forces, F minus kx, therefore should be equal to m1a. This is going ahead only because the spring force, kx, should be equal to m2. You add them together, F equals, no surprise, m1 plus m2 times a. Acceleration has to be F over m1 plus m2. It's your acceleration in this case. We knew this. You could have put that inside a box. I don't care what the spring does inside the box. I'm pulling that box as a mass of m1 plus m2. From here, we can talk about x. Put that in this equation. You can see that it's m2 by k times a. A over here is f by m1 plus m2. This over here is extension. Again, pretty intuitive, because x will increase if f increases. So if you pull this with a larger force, I want a larger force on this also, so x has to increase. That's exactly how it goes. One question I'm giving you, you can go home. Jaldi. Please stop talking, wrap this up, yeah. Please stop talking, wrap this up quickly. You've been given the assignment sheet 1. Okay, assignment sheet is coming to you. This one is for the last class. We've actually done this a bit later, but I would like you guys to wrap this up. For the class that we've done today, I'll be sending it across to you in a couple of days' time, and I want you to wrap that also up by the next class. It would be great if you can do it as quickly as possible. I know you guys got a lot of homework, but that's fine. You manage. It's not really that difficult. It's more of analysis rather than like homework sort of thing. Okay, it would be great if you guys can do it. These ones you can score Tap this up. Okay.